Well, I think what the PhD has given me is opportunity. It has opened a number of doors for me that would not have opened if I hadn't had that credential. So if you are interested in a field, I would say go for it, get the credential, and then see what other things you can do with it, and be open to opportunities that you may never even have known existed before.
You're here to talk about graduate studies in STEM, as I mentioned. So I'd like to first let our viewers know a little bit about you. So can you tell us a little bit about your own path as how you were able to combine your interest in science with interest in public service?
So I started off graduating with a PhD in chemistry and went into education, primarily working at undergraduate education, and decided that at some point that I wanted to try something different. So I first came to Washington, D.C. to do a science policy fellowship, where I worked in the United States Congress for a year as part of a fellowship program, and I got the policy bug. And that's where I really began to understand how scientists can combine their technical expertise with a sense of service to the nation through the broader area of science policy.
So what do you advise for young students that are interested in getting into STEM? We have Japanese students in particular that are watching our program who oftentimes find that there's a lot of sticker shock in terms of whether or not they want to study in the United States. So for graduate programs, would you say that this is something that they need to be worried about in the same way, or are there different opportunities for them to be able to enter the field and fund their studies?
So if a Japanese student were to come to study in a graduate program in STEM in the United States, that student would probably enjoy a tuition waiver and a stipend, a living stipend, which is enough to basically subsist. It's not a lot of money, but it's enough to buy groceries and pay rent and so forth. So they're supported throughout their graduate program. Initially, in the first 2 years, they will typically be teaching assistants for graduate level or undergraduate courses, and then transition full-time to research. And the PhDs can take anywhere from 5 to 7 years to complete.
And is that only for American students, or would that be available for international students, like the Japanese students that might be watching this program?
The United States welcomes many foreign students to study graduate programs in the United States. Currently, Japan is a small fraction of that, but there are no barriers that I'm aware of to having more Japanese students study in the U.S.
And there's been a lot of talk about efforts to diversify the STEM fields, to try to get more women and girls interested in the field, for them to study in these fields. Do you think that different efforts to try to attract more women into science, technology, engineering, and math fields have been starting to bear some fruit?
Yes, we can see that in the data. So there are several bodies in the United States that collect data every year on how many women attain different degrees, bachelor's, master's, and PhDs in STEM relevant fields, and then other groups track their participation in the workforce. And one of the things that we've seen is that participation of women earning PhDs in the United States has increased 5% over the last 20 years, representing something like 44% of all PhDs granted in STEM fields are now going to women.
Oh wow, that's really approaching parity. So what advice, I guess, would you have, though, for young women who are interested in the STEM fields, interested in graduate education in STEM?
Well, I think the advice is it can be a tough road. Graduate school for many people is not the happiest time of their lives. It can be challenging. It's hard work and all-consuming, but my experience has shown me that it's definitely been worth the effort, and I would not have had the career I've had without I haven't gotten a PhD.
Now, you mentioned that there's opportunities to have many of the PhD students can get funding for their studies. Are there particular programs that our audience should look into if they're a young woman interested in pursuing a PhD in a STEM field that are unique to women?
So there are funding programs that provide scholarships or stipends specifically for women. These are usually offered by the funding agencies, the major funding agencies for the U.S. So students can apply for these fellowships themselves, or they may be offered through the university. So there's a large variety of programs, and some of them target women, some of them target other underrepresented minorities in the United States, other ethnic and racial groups that have been traditionally underrepresented in STEM fields. So it's just a matter of doing some internet searching, and you can find a lot of opportunities out there.
You mentioned at the outset, though, that you early on in your career got the policy bug. So I'd like to talk to you a little bit about the opportunities for public service within the STEM fields. What would you say is sort of the public benefit or the public service benefits of educating chemists and engineers? How could someone who got into one of those fields who wants to serve their country be able to do that?
Well, I think there are a lot of opportunities, something that people don't realize. The federal government itself hires a lot of scientists and engineers, and hires them for a variety of different agencies. They might be managing a fishery, they might be managing forests, they might be doing biomedical research. And so when you're working for the federal government, we naturally call that service, because you're working as a public servant. And there's a tremendous amount of opportunity there, and a tremendous need, particularly in high-skilled fields, for more people to choose that path over, say, an academic career or a career in industry.
So it makes a lot of sense why the U.S. government would try to get more Americans to study in the STEM fields. But here you are, you're in Japan this week on a U.S. government-supported trip. What is the U.S. government interest in making sure that Japan has well-educated people in the STEM fields as well?
Well, I think that, first of all, I'm not speaking on behalf of the federal government, the U.S. government here, but I can see where the United States has an interest in having its allies be strong in science and engineering, because there's a recognition that strength in science and strength in STEM fields leads to economic stability, national security, and other benefits societally that we would want our allies to enjoy.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And so we've talked a little bit about the public benefits to society for education in STEM, but I'd like to shift, maybe talk about some of the private benefits. So if you're a young person interested in this field, why is this a good career choice for them individually to pursue a PhD in chemistry or physics?
Well, I think the PhD, if you're going to go all the way for the PhD, you do it for a variety of reasons. One of which is you really like to do research. You really want to be an independent researcher, discovering things that no one has known before. And for some people, that's all they need, is to be working in an area where no one has seen this before me, or no one has made this connection before me, and I'm contributing something unique to the world, something of value. For others, it might be the compensation. PhD scientists in the United States can command a fairly decent salaries, certainly better than when they're graduate students, and that can provide a life of stability for them and their families as well.
If you don't mind me asking, more personally, what would you say has been the most rewarding part of being a PhD chemist? And you've had a variety of roles since you got your PhD. Can you give us a couple of examples of things that you are really proud of that you got to work on, or you found really exciting to work on?
Well, I think what the PhD has given me is opportunity. It has opened a number of doors for me that would not have opened if I hadn't had that credential. So for me, it's less about being a chemist than having a science PhD. That has allowed me to move into science policy. It has allowed me to work at a policy institute with really smart people that are working hand in hand with the White House to solve some of the nation's problems and advise on those issues. And so those have been very satisfying for me. I have benefited from being able to move throughout my career in ways that I've never felt stuck or trapped.
Would you, if you're advising young women in particular, would you say that the credentialing is all the more important for them, or is it just important really across the board?
Well, I think it's important for any person to figure out what it is that motivates them and what do they value, because the PhD may not be the right solution for everybody. I don't want to say all women should get a PhD, but for many it will provide them with a credential that gives them a certain amount of status and recognition as having achieved excellence in an area, being independent, having critical thinking skills, which can be valuable to many potential employers.
If there's one thing you'd like our viewers to remember from our talk, what would that be?
Well, if my career is any sign, you can do a lot of different things with a STEM PhD. So if you are interested in a field, I would say go for it, get the credential, and then see what other things you can do with it, and be open to opportunities that you may never even have known existed before.
Well, that's a perfect note to end on. So thank you very much for taking your time with us today.
Thank you.